Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV. This is your latest Liverpool news update. My name is Dan Klopp, as you can see on the screen right there, and I'm here to bring you all the latest in the world of the Reds. And of course, the majority of it will centre around Jurgen Klopp's press conference, which finished around 10 minutes ago. So we're going to run through exactly what the boss had to say ahead of Liverpool taking on Sheffield United, and of course, a little nod towards Manchester United at the weekend as well. But before I do any of that, I've got a little bit of housekeeping to take care of, and is that we here at Redmen TV have a very, very special offer for you guys. And it over on Redmen Plus, you can get Redmen Plus Captain yearly subscription for half price. Just head to redmenplus.com now, sign up as a Captain yearly subscriber and use the code RACE and you will get that for half price. All our incredible content that we do day in, day out, week in, week out here at Redmen for half the price. What more could you possibly want? And it is the best possible time to do it, of course, as well, because we are very much in the midst of the title run in the Europa League final stage as well, of course. It really is the most exciting time to be a Red. So yeah, come and get on board and we will hold your hand, celebrate, hug and love every single second of it with you along the way. Wonderful stuff. Now it's time to dive into the chat before we go into the news. Lee Wizkid, how are you doing, mate? I hope you're good. Regular contributor. I'm Sam, but yeah, hope you are the same as well. I'm even more buoyant and positive mood-wise than I was 15 minutes ago, because Jurgen Klopp's press conference was a pretty good one, I think, in terms of injury news and stuff like that. I'll dive into it in a moment, but relatively speaking, I think all is looking pretty well with the world. Of course, the fact we're top of the Premier League helps massively with that. And obviously Arsenal, Man City playing tonight, and Man City's game isn't straightforward either, so even better. Hello, everyone. Everyone's been very nice in the chat there, saying their hellos, formal greetings. Hope everyone's good. Hope everyone's enjoying their Wednesday afternoon. Likewise, Face Southall, hiya. Hope you're good. There's no way they can buy another club in the Premier League. I get where you're coming from, because I think sort of in terms of what they're doing, I think that actually makes a little bit of sense, and the way their club's going about their business is not too dissimilar to the way FSG like to run Liverpool, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, you can't buy another club in the Premier League. That doesn't. The conflict of interest there is absolutely through the roof. So yeah, I don't foresee that being a possibility. Hi, everyone. News-wise then, Jurgen Klopp has just spoken to the press, of course, down at the Axet head of Liverpool taking on Sheffield United. And yeah, he has said some stuff, including on Stefan Bajcetic. One of which is that Curtis Jones is back in full training and is in contention to face Sheffield United tomorrow night. He's likely to be in the squad, therefore. Diogo Jota and Trent Alexander-Arnold, hopefully from next week, will be back in part of team training, which is obviously really, really, really good news as well. Obviously, Atalanta next week. So let's see. They could be involved in that game in some capacity, even just a spot back on the bench, back involved in that way would do. He did, however, say that Wataru Endo suffered a knock in the game against Brighton. He waxed lyrical about how brilliant a player he was, and rightfully so as well. But unfortunately, he did come out of that game with a bit of a knock. So he's a slight doubt for tomorrow night's game. He wasn't too sort of downbeat on it. He was quite laissez-faire, relatively optimistic, I'd say. So let's hope that it is something or nothing, and he can be involved in some capacity. He might not start the game. He might be only fit for 30 minutes or something like that. If he's missed any training this week, there's a good chance he won't be able to do all 90, most definitely. And you do want to be careful with somebody who's become as important as Wataru Endo is, because as much as we are rightly singing the praises of Alexis McAllister, so much of what McAllister's been able to do in recent weeks is because of the brilliance of Wataru Endo behind him, just doing a lot of the dirty work and breaking up play and all that sort of stuff. A lot of the stuff McAllister was doing. But I think Endo has definitely allowed McAllister to move further forward and flourish and offer him that freedom to go and be the player, the wonderful player that he is. And DKH says don't take the risk on Endo. And yeah, but I get that. And listen, if there is any element of risk whatsoever in him even featuring tomorrow, then yeah, I tend to agree with you. What you do midfield-wise becomes slightly difficult, I'd say. Does McAllister go back into the 6? He's playing so well in the 8. You want to do everything in your power to avoid that, but Curtis Jones can't start the game. There's no two ways about that, because we haven't seen him for so many weeks now. Other 6 options, somebody mentioned Bajcetic a minute ago. Klopp did speak about Stefan Bajcetic. He's going to return to team training next week, so there's no way he's going to be involved tomorrow night. So it's really difficult. AJ says just put Maka back in the 6. Possibly. Harvey Elliott in the 8 is a sensible shout. If you are going to do McAllister in the 6, Harvey Elliott is definitely well worthy of a start there, and no two ways about that. You got Gravenberch, of course, who is back playing again now. Dom Szoboszlai looked a little bit back to his best in the back end of that Brighton game, so yeah, it's all, and yeah, AJ's right, loads of positivity, absolutely. And on Alisson, I think we're only probably a week away, maybe 2 weeks away from having a very similar conversation about Alisson Becker, because the most recent update about him, Klopp didn't mention him, as far as I've heard today. Maybe something in the embargoed section, if that is to follow. But we aren't too far away. He did speak very highly of Kevin Keller and how important he's been as well in the past couple of months, and absolutely spot on with that. We wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't be having conversations about sitting top of the Premier League and being very much at the forefront of a title race were it not for Keith Keller's brilliance, and indeed the Europa League as well. So yeah, absolutely incredible. And DK Hates 96 said we can probably put Maka back in the 6. And an interesting one here from Charlie Moss. Gomez in the 6. Maybe. Absolutely maybe. I'm not... If you'd have said that to me in October, I'd have said, what are you smoking? But right now, he did it obviously against Nottingham Forest. He's done it in sort of bits in other games as well. He's gone into there in terms of inverting from left back. So it's not an unfamiliar role to him. And I think if there was a game whereby you feel like that could be an option, it probably is the Sheffield United game, if indeed Endo can't make it. So yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that as a shout at all. My Easter was sound. To be honest, my Easter was very worky. Nothing really changes here when it comes to Easter. But yeah, all good. I was gutted about the Xabi news, I won't lie to you. Of course I was. I think we all were, weren't we? Because most of us wanted Xabi Alonso, I think it's fair to say. But I'm over it now. I think from Xabi's point of view, he wants to be the very best manager he can possibly be. And he sees the route to that as staying at Bayer Leverkusen. So I can't really begrudge him of that. But yeah, it's disappointing. But again, I wasn't so convinced that Alonso had to be the be-all and end-all that now I feel like the whole world's going to fall apart. I can make my peace with it and move on to the next one. And for me, right now, Ruben Amorim is very much a standout candidate. But I've said it a few times, I don't think Julian Nagelsmann's too far down that list either. And I've done a couple of shows on both in the last few days, and my opinion hasn't really changed. And Wayne Clark asked any of the youngsters could play in the 6. James McConnell is the one that screams to mind in terms of that conversation. He is an out-and-out 6. That's where his favourite position is. He's a recognised sort of 6 by trade. So quite possibly, whether the game suits that is another question. You could essentially, for all intents and purposes, play 3/8s in there and have that more creative number 6, because it is a game whereby Liverpool have expected to dominate possession and all that sort of stuff. So McAllister, if there was a game where you were going to say to Alexis, do us a favour, mate, drop back into the defensive midfield role, it does feel like Sheffield United at home is perfect for that. And that's not to disrespect Sheffield United. I'm not taking it for granted whatsoever. Like, it's so crucial we get the point, and I don't want us to walk in there thinking, oh, this is a foregone conclusion, because it's not. Nothing is easy in the Premier League. We found that out to our cost in the past. So yeah, but if you're offering McAllister or Joe Gomez, obviously Joe Gomez has got loads of defensive qualities. McAllister has more attacking ones. I think I'd be with Alexis McAllister just for this game. Update on Robertson. Yes, there is an update on Andy Robertson. He is fit and available for tomorrow, which is incredible news, because I won't lie to you, when I first saw him limp off from Scotland duty, I thought that could be a good few weeks. Obviously, we got the initial indication it wasn't going to be a few days instead. And yeah, a few days has turned out to be absolutely spot on, because yeah, Jurgen Klopp has said that Andy Robertson is in contention to face Sheffield United, which is just wonderful, isn't it? Whether he starts the game or not remains to be seen. A lot might depend on what happens with Joe Gomez. He has missed a few days training, obviously, as well, Robbo. So yeah, it feels like the type of game that Kostas Tsimikas could come into. He doesn't play loads of footy, but if you have got a midweek game against, you know, a relegation threatened Premier League side, and you aren't turning to Kostas Tsimikas at left back, questions have got to be asked about when Kostas Tsimikas plays any footy. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if he was to start this one and Andy Robertson sit it out. But again, Joe Gomez is perfectly fine to do a left back role. Feels like Joe Gomez is now in the world whereby you could have a conversation, right back, centre back, left back, even in the 6, that you could do all of them, and I think we'd all be pretty comfortable with it. That's how versatile and how important a squad player he's become for us. He's probably not the first choice in any of those I've just mentioned, but he is very much a crucial cog in this particular wheel now in terms of what we do between now and the end of the season. Curtis Jones has got a big old role to play. Charles J isn't having the Endo news. He says there's absolutely nothing wrong with him. Listen, I hope you're right. But again, I think I have seen this, Charlie, seen this morning. Yeah, it was something, wasn't it? Darwin Núñez's role in it was probably the highlight of it all. But yeah, all of them had their own special parts to play. 6 minutes of your life that I'd put 6 minutes aside to watch it, because, as I say, it really is a spectacle. That's something I'd definitely say about it. Interesting though. Interesting bit of news from the presser, actually. Joel Matip. I think we all were of the implication that he was back running. People have seen some clips and stuff like that of him recently. Jurgen Klopp said today that Joel is running. He hates that, but he's able to run again. Hates running. Didn't know that. He's now pain-free, but it all takes time. I don't think the season is long enough for him. So, yeah, unfortunately, looks like we might not get to see Joel Matip again this campaign, but what it means for his future is interesting. If he can get back somewhere close to match fitness before the time his contract runs out, maybe Liverpool will be tempted to give him that new deal. But giving someone a new deal who's been injury prone anyway. Now, listen, I'm not undermining or detracting from how incredible a footballer Joel Matip has been, and what a free signing, by the way, as well. But can you give him a new deal? Is it a sentimental deal? Is that the right thing to do? I'm not quite sure, because if you're giving Joel Matip a new contract, let's just say Thiago gets himself back up to speed between now and the end of May, do you then have to give Thiago a new contract as well? Is that where we're at now? I don't know. And don't get me wrong, Joel Matip has been a more regular servant and a better player for Liverpool than Thiago has. Ability-wise, you can have a conversation, but in terms of what they've actually given to the club, Joel Matip far, far exceeds Thiago. So there is definitely a stronger case for Matip to get a new contract. However, the ruthlessness and the forward thinking and the future planning of me thinks I don't think giving Matip a new contract is a sensible thing to do, personally. And Gorey says, I think Matip himself will see it as a perfect time to leave. Yeah, possibly. But again, is there a part of Liverpool and a part of Jurgen Klopp and a part of the ownership maybe that just see it as the right thing to do, and to stand by Joel Matip and to maybe get him back properly fit next season, get him some more footy? It's a good question on the code, actually, which has not been... Yeah, I don't know how long it lasts. I don't think we've actually decided upon that yet. Maybe until the title race is decided, which, from our point of view, if it means that we win it, is hopefully only a few weeks away, because I think we're all hoping for some more drop points. Although hoping for Arsenal to drop points at home to Luton tonight, maybe a little bit of dreamland going on there. AJ says, especially with Edwards being back now, he wanted rid of Henderson, etc. before Klopp intervened. Matip is gone, in your opinion? Yeah, you could be right. And yeah, I just touched on this, man. I'm not sure. I imagine you normally run for a couple of weeks, could even be longer in this instance. I wouldn't like to firmly hang my hat on an answer there, because I'm not entirely sure. Charles J says, we need Matip. We should keep him at all costs. Yeah, I think, listen, in terms of when he's fit and available and when he's got a run of matches and rhythm under his belt, there's no two ways about it. He's an incredible centre-half. But Jarell Quansah's emergence has obviously eased the pain of Joel Matip this year, in his absence, of course. He's been absolutely incredible, Jarell Quansah, but I don't see how keeping what was already an injury-prone Joel Matip around. He's into his 30s now as well, of course. He's out of contract. I don't see how keeping him around for the new manager is beneficial to anyone. There's a continuity there, there's stability. Obviously, he does bring a lot to the party when he is the things I mentioned before, fit, ready, etc., etc., but I don't know. I think a new manager with new ideas and potentially some transfer targets of his own, depending on who it is. If it is someone like Ruben Amorim, he's known to operate with a three at the back. So does Joel Matip suit that? I'm not entirely sure either. He might want to bring in players from his own club that he's at now, his own targets, who knows? So yeah, I think we'll all miss his dribbling. DKH says, thank you for your service, Matip, but time for a new centre back. And that's it. I think, listen, in terms of the position, we definitely need that extra centre-back. So Joel Matip, if he was fit, that would be the right amount. We're one short now, in my opinion. And that's not just because, we've got through quite well, touch wood, to this point. But when Canate is obviously out injured, and we are using Joe Gomez in different roles, right back, left back, the six, whatever, we are a little bit threadbare in that position. So there's no two ways about it. If we do allow Matip to leave in the summer, then we definitely need to go out and buy one. We all thought we needed one last summer, but as I say, the brilliance of Jarell Quansah has kind of eased those concerns. But yeah, and Easy Ollie says, a Matip of 28, he'd be perfect. And yeah, you might be right. And stylistically, I think you probably are right. But again, I'll come back to it. In his 30s, injury prone. it doesn't feel like a smart piece of business to give him a new deal, does it? Let's be honest. I do want to touch on some Ruben Amorim stuff as well, actually, speaking of new managers, because he obviously is very much the flavour of the month when it comes to finding a new manager for the Reds. Pedro Sepulveda, Portuguese journalist, have been speaking about this, and he said this morning that there were some reports that Barcelona could be taking a close look at Amorim as well, but he's reported that they won't be doing so to replace Xavi. He says Liverpool are leading the race to sign the Portuguese coach. The release clause is €20 million. However, Sporting could negotiate it. Amorim's focus is now on the Portuguese League and the Portuguese Cup, which they, of course, advanced to the final in last night after overcoming Benfica. I think it was 4-3 on aggregate in the end. The game last night finished 2-1. They won the first, 2-2 rather. They won the first leg 2-1, I should say. So yeah, they are in the final of the Portuguese Cup at top of the Primeira Liga. Things are going just swimmingly right now in the world of Ruben Amorim and Sporting. So, yeah, what do we think about him? And his response to questions last night post Benfica game are really, really interesting, actually. He said, I'll just grab it now for you, 1 second. I want to get the exact quotes. How's that happened? How has that happened? He basically said that we'll see when asked whether the Portuguese Cup final will be his final game in charge of Sporting. Whereas previously, in the past few days, he's been quite coy, and he's kind of pushed away the potential of a move to Liverpool, or even a move away from Sporting, rather, in the last week. I think he joked about the fact that Sporting had already sought out the replacement for him in Anthony Barry, the guys at Bayern Munich right now. But his answer last night was the most pointed one, and the most one that sort of maybe suggested that he has got one eye on his future line away, potentially from Sporting. So we'll have to wait and see, of course, but it's Zizzo asks, who do you think will be our new manager? I thought Xabi Alonso would be our new manager, so I'm reluctant to put my neck on the line and say it will definitely be X, Y, Z. But having said all of that, Amorim is so clear now in terms of the one being spoken about, in terms of the favourite in the bookies and all that sort of stuff, and he does appear to be the standout candidate. I think there's lots of good reasons for that. There's some drawbacks to him as well. He hasn't necessarily sort of thrived or flourished in European competitions yet. He's had some good moments in there, of course he has, but his stock is high. He's won a league, and there's a bit of a narrative or story building in my head, because they won the league as Sporting, he won then the league rather, for the first time in 19 years in the COVID season. They're on the brink of potentially doing it again. Jurgen Klopp obviously won his first Premier League in the COVID season, and who knows. There's definitely a story there somewhere, hopefully. But yeah, let's see. And it's a good point, this actually. It's not something I can say. I know Pep Lijnders is on the list of Ajax to head over there, but if we were to get Ruben Amorim, there's nothing to suggest that he wouldn't go the other way. Pep Lijnders, because that feels like a good fit. We know he's got a real sort of admiration and a bit of a love for the Primeira Liga and Portuguese footy. So yeah, I can actually see a world whereby that could be the case. It's not out of the question whatsoever. But yeah, listen, in terms of, man, I really like Julian Nagelsmann. I do. I think there's some other candidates out there who could come into the reckoning. But the issue is, the further you get down the list, if people do turn you down, or they decide to go elsewhere, like Xabi Alonso has done, of course, he decided to stay at Bayer Leverkusen, all of a sudden you're 2 or 3 people away from getting your real sort of plan C, D, E, F, and that's not where Liverpool want to be. We need to be, in the upper echelons of all of this. And I think the problem is as well, there's often a fall guy when a big manager leaves a club. We've seen it with Alex Ferguson. We've seen it with Arsene Wenger at Arsenal, of course, as well. The next guy to come in has got such a difficult task on his hand to follow the one that went before, his predecessor, that it very rarely works. I don't want Liverpool to be in that boat. I want us to get the right guy straight away. Listen, I felt like that was Xabi Alonso, of course I did. But the further you get away from your first choice, which probably was Xabi Alonso, the more likely it becomes that one guy will just come in and basically be that fall guy, and he will be a bit of a lamb to the slaughter, and you're only ever a run of games away from him getting the sack because he wasn't the one you wanted anyway. Let's say we do get to De Zerbi. I know he's been pretty much ruled out now, so I can talk about him. I didn't want him at all, by the way. I think on the pitch, I think Roberto De Zerbi would have had a decent impact. I think it stylistically would have suited, and the football would have been attractive to watch. We've seen that with Brighton, of course. It's a little bit gung-ho at times for me. It's a little bit too open, I would say, though Liverpool can be that as well. But I think De Zerbi, tactically, is astute enough and adept enough to have been a success. I think it's the other stuff, it's his character and how he speaks to the press and all that sort of stuff that wouldn't have sat well. I think you would have only ever been 3, 4, 5 games away, bad games that is, from having a real problem with someone like Roberto De Zerbi. And that could be the case with any of these, of course it could, but De Zerbi doesn't feel like the type of character that suits what we're after at all. So I was quite pleased to hear that he's suddenly been removed from the list of candidates personally. Supernova, I hear Rafa Benitez needs a job. He does. He was recently let go by Celta Vigo, let's put it that way. But yeah, don't see that happening. Thomas Frank is a good shout. Thomas Frank's an interesting one, because when it first emerged that Klopp would be leaving, he was very high on a lot of people's lists. But he's fallen down that pecking order, maybe whilst Brentford have been getting bad results as well. But he hasn't really come into any conversation since that. There have been some other names. I've seen somebody mentioned Inzaghi a moment ago. Thiago Motta at Bologna has been mentioned as well. Somebody mentioned Thomas Tuchel a minute ago, which I'm not in love with whatsoever. Estam says Ruben Amorim and Dom Sobo one of the best looking manager and CM in the league. Yeah, probably. I think Xabi Alonso was also clear when it comes to attractiveness, but I think Ruben Amorim is a decent enough looking bloke. Yeah, I'm with you on this, by the way. And also the Gonzalo Inacio stuff as well. I've seen the Zerbi stuff before, but yeah, I'm really pleased that De Zerbi's not going to be the guy, personally. As much as, like I say, I think he's a really smart, intelligent football man, there's just something missing. There's something not right when it comes to his personality. And listen, Jurgen Klopp is pretty much irreplaceable, of course. He's one of a kind. If we are sat here trying to find out the ideal replacement, it simply doesn't exist. Jurgen Klopp's been such an incredible communicator, incredible spokesperson for his football club. We're not going to find that again. Let's be honest with each other here. However, you don't want to go from Klopp to somebody who's miles down on that scale. Alonso felt like a decent sort of buffer and not too far of a drop. I think Amorim's similar, but like I say, I think De Zerbi's way down that. And I've said it before in these shows, and I'll say it again. As much as the news about Klopp was gutting, it was sickening, I hate it, I'm still not quite used to it. I'd love him to change his mind and stay, of course I would. There is a piece of me that thinks if we can just harness all the good stuff that Jurgen Klopp has given to this squad, the mentality, the intensity, the never say die attitude and all that really positive stuff, as well as all the brilliant tactics and instructions and system-wise and the pressing and everything and all of that brilliant stuff. If we've got all of that, and we get a manager who can implement some of his own ideas, some of his own styles, maybe become a little bit more possession hungry and we dominate possession and we don't let them have the ball like Man City do and like Brighton try and do and all that stuff. There is a bit of me that is excited by the prospect of us having all the boss Klopp stuff and the rest of it as well. I think we can improve. As crazy as that is to say, I don't think we are the finished article yet as a football team. We're an incredible football team, and I love the way we play, that underdog spirit, that passion, that intensity. Certainly at Anfield, we're an unstoppable beast at times. I adore us. I adore Jurgen Klopp. This isn't for 1 second me detracting from what that man has done. I have his name tattooed on my leg, for God's sake. I think he's incredible. However, I'd be lying if I sat here and said, I don't think we can get any better, because I think we can. And I think a new manager can help us reach that as well. So, yeah, that was a little rant over. I really like Diego Simeone, but I do not think he's the man for Liverpool. The style of football, the identity he brings, and I love him, by the way, I do, apart from when you're playing against him like we did a few years ago. I think he's boss. I think he's, honestly, the fact he does not give a single shite, I like him a lot. However, no. Doesn't suit us, does he, at all? It's not aggressive enough. It's aggressive, but it's not attacking enough, is what I want to say. It's not, no. You have to bring a certain brand of football to Liverpool with you, and I'm not sure Simeone ticks that particular box. I'm not going to answer that question out, do you think we'll win the league? Because I'm just not. He is. Not his face or anything like that. I should post a picture on Twitter really, and you should go and see it. But yeah, I do have his name. It says Klopp lives forever. Did anyone see the banner when it was like announced he was going to leave that was up in the Kop? I've got that tattooed on my right calf that I can see right now. I would show you, but I think I've said this before on the shows. This is quite physically impossible to show you right now, but it does exist. I promise you. Yeah, and he doesn't feel like he's ever going to leave Atleti, does it, to be fair? Money-wise, or that club suits him down to the ground. Whether that's because he's made that team in his very mould, and he's been doing it for so many years now, that it just feels like they're a match made in heaven, and it doesn't feel like his style would work anywhere else. I actually think he would be perfectly suited to a Chelsea or Manchester United, to be honest. He feels like a better fit for those type of clubs. Like a bit of a gun for hire type, whereas we at Liverpool want this connection with our manager and we want to embrace him and vice versa. So yeah, I just don't see Diego Simeone. As much as I think he's a boss footy manager, don't see him being that guy personally. Sound, we'll start to wrap up now. Because I'm aware, he did do that. And listen, his managerial credentials stack up. And I've had multiple conversations with multiple people now about him, and there's still more to come, of course. He's upset the natural order a little bit in Portugal. He works with young players brilliantly, speaks to the press brilliantly. By all accounts, his man management is really impressive as well. He's coped with, and I know Chris and Josh did a big old deep dive about this as well, so check this out. They did a lot more information I'm about to say, but the ability he's had to cope with losing key players and find a new way or even replace them has been second to none as well. So he has a lot in his favour. There's a couple of little drawbacks, a couple of little cons in there as well, but they're nothing really that you can genuinely say are deal breakers or enough to say he's not the guy. There is no guy that can replace Klopp. I've said this already in this show. There is no ideal candidate. There's no ideal solutions. The ideal solution is Klopp staying. Quite frankly, that's not going to happen. So whoever we get, we'll have to take a little bit of a hit on. But that's not to say that Amorim, Nagelsmann, whoever can't come in and can't succeed, because I believe they can. The foundations are there, thanks to Jurgen Klopp and his staff, for whoever the next guy is to come in and be a brilliant football manager. A couple last questions before we go, because my voice has just started to fail on me. How weak should we go in Sheffield United? Not that weak. I mean, we have to get 3 points. It's absolutely imperative. And listen, Sheffield United are not all conquering, far from it, but yeah, I think as close to full strength as can be, with an eye on getting some key players off, if possible, with half an hour, 20 minutes to go. And listen, in fact, I'm not even going to say what I was about to say, but we just need to win the game. Let's put it that way. If you can guess what I was about to say, DM me or pop it in the chat now. I'm not sure I'd be able to, though, because it was not niche, but quite an interesting thing that shouldn't be said out loud. It involves how the table looks and numbers. Let's put it that way. Score predictions for City and Villa. My heart says 1-1 and Villa take points off Man City, but my head, it was. No, it wasn't that. It was this. Sorry. Yeah, it was. My head says Man City win 3-1 or something like that. But I'm gonna, let's go 1-1. Let's have it. And they have no Watkins. They've got no Jacob Ramsey. He wishes to blow. Somebody else asked, Duvanis asked if I'll be watching the Arsenal game. I'll be watching both. The staggered kickoffs, aren't they? BT have taken after the Amazon mould, and they've staggered the kickoff times to allow people to watch bits of both, which I love, by the way. I'm all for that. I will be watching both games. Probably watch the first half an hour or so of Arsenal, and then the likelihood is that they'll go quite far clear. That's not to disrespect Luton, because they put up a fight more often than not. However, Luton are down to the bare bones injury-wise. I think they've lost 13 players, which is a hell of a lot for that squad. So I imagine Arsenal will win quite comfortably. So watch half an hour of that, get something to eat, watch the entire Man City game, and hope for the draw, as Terry rightly says. Nathan Weiss, listen, me and you have had some run-ins on this. If you're right there, I'll come round to your way thinking about James Ward-Prowse, mate, because what I wouldn't give for a draw tonight in that game, a draw in both games, then I will be elated. The Zerbi's more handsome than Amorim. I've got to take exceptions to that. I'm sorry. He isn't. There's no way. He's not big enough. His beard's terrible. His hair's awful. I'm sorry. No, not a chance. Anyway, Charles, this is kind of what I was referring to a minute ago. But get the 3 points. If we're in a position with I think the way I said this the other day, probably just to the lads and the girls upstairs, if we are like 3-0 up with half an hour to go, I think it's one of them whereby you don't stop going because goal difference is then a thing, but get the game won and then deal with that after. Don't go all out gung-ho trying to beat them 9-0 from the outset. But if you are in a position with some minutes left on the clock, you cannot stop trying to score goals because you do have an opportunity to do that. However, having said all of that stuff, 1-0 off Darwin Núñez's arse. See if I care. Sound? I will, yeah, maybe. Again, I don't see that happening either. But I would love Luton to put up a fight and get a win tonight. My God. Exactly this. But I'll take both. If both are a thing, I'm fine with both. So I will actually start to wrap up now because I'm aware I'm just rabbiting on and we're just talking utter nonsense. Just as I said at the top of the show, we do have a code available for redmenplus.com right now. If you use the code RACE, I think probably all capital letters because that's how it's written down in front of me, you will get a Captain yearly subscription for half price. Come and join us for the run-in, Europa League included as well. It's going to be a frightfully good time. Come and get involved. All the boss content. I've got Gillan Ballaghay interviews on there. We've got Journal Insights every single week, of course. We have you covered from every possible angle, whether it be match day stuff, content around the manager, transfers, you name it, we speak about it. So yeah, come and get involved. Score prediction for the Sheffield United game there, 4-1. Yeah, again, just take the points. 6-0 would be perfect, but yeah, just give me the points. Sound? I think we're done. Have I done everything? Yeah, I think I've done news-wise. Andy Robertson's back, that's good. Curtis Jones is back, that's good. Stefan Bacchetis next week. Trent next week. Diogo Jota next week. Joel Matip back out running. Ruben Amorim said, we'll see when it comes to what he's doing next year in management. That's quite exciting. Thank you very much for getting involved. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Take it easy.
Thank you so very, very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Redmen content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.